It was in 1959 that the Dalai Lama fled into India, an incredible 15-day journey on foot and partly on horseback as he escaped the Tibetan capital. He left behind an estimated 2,000 dead during 3 days of fighting in a fierce Chinese crackdown following a Tibetan uprising. His summer palace left in ruins as the building was shelled into the ground. It was incredible that he and his entourage of 20 men, including 6 cabinet members, even made it, crossing a 500-yard river, travelling at night to escape Chinese guards and enduring the harsh climate of the Himalayan mountains. As he arrived, there'd been no news of where he had gone and if he was safe. The Dalai Lama was offered asylum in India and settled in Dharamsala in the north, leading a government in exile. Around 80,000 Tibetans followed him there, many still living in the same area. The Dalai Lama later awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989. He has, of course, become a real symbol of peace and resistance to oppression.
The rest of the world, whenever they find difficulties, you see, immediately violence. That's not the right way. Look, Tibetan, in spite of a lot of difficulties, strictly following non-violent principle.
He's even made some progress towards reconciliation with China over Tibet's future, calling for a middle way of self-rule for Tibet within China. China itself, though, remaining highly sceptical, believing he still seeks independence for the state. For many Tibetans, then, living in northern India, they still have fond memories of where they used to call home, but they've resigned themselves, for now at least, to living in Dharamsala. 60 years on, then, from the Tibetan uprising, Lena Razafimbello and Irene Marceau revisit Dharamsala for France 24.
Each morning, Dharamsala awakens to Buddhist chants. At the entrance to the Dalai Lama's temple, thousands of visitors jostle for space. Among them, 95-year-old Gyalthang Chopel. They've come to wish His Holiness a long life. A prayer ceremony that Chopel never misses. He's come early to get a seat in the front row. He is one of the oldest disciples of the Dalai Lama and moved to Dharamsala a few decades ago to be by his spiritual leader's side.
I cannot even remember the first time I saw His Holiness. I see him so often. He always recognizes me when he sees me in the crowd and comes to bless me. I pray for his health.
When the Dalai Lama finally arrives, after several hours of waiting, Chopel is visibly moved.
I am happy. He blessed me.
At 83 years old, the Buddhist leader remains one of the most popular religious figures in the world.
Our Tibetan culture is very rich. Whoever studied it knows the extent of its uniqueness and value. It stands out from other cultures, particularly in today's world.
It is exactly 60 years since the Dalai Lama fled to India, forced to abandon his native Tibet by a Chinese military invasion. Chopel remembers those days as if they were yesterday. The old man is one of the last rebels alive who took up arms against the Chinese enemy during the popular uprisings of the 50s.
This is Buchung, and this is me. Buchung was my friend. We belonged to the same armed group. He was trained by the CIA.
In 1959, in the middle of the Cold War, Tibetan rebels found an ally in the United States, which was eager to counter Mao's communist China.
During a special training that lasted nearly 6 months, the CIA showed us how to handle weapons and master the art of war. American secret services also provided us with weapons to fight.
One of his missions in Tibet was to secure the country's southern borders to facilitate the Dalai Lama's escape route. The future Nobel Peace Prize laureate was only 23 years old when he crossed the Himalayas and arrived in India. He left behind a country in turmoil. Since the start of his exile, the Dalai Lama has never ceased denouncing the cultural genocide and discrimination endured by the Tibetan people since he escaped.
I fled to India because I did not want to stay under the Chinese communist regime. We started this guerrilla war to defy Chinese authorities. I do not regret participating in the rebellion, even if I had to sacrifice everything for it.
When he left Tibet at 35, Chopel did not know that he would never see his homeland or his friends and family ever again. 15,000 Tibetans now live in Dharamsala. Even after 60 years in exile, the Dalai Lama remains the pillar around whom the Tibetan community has grown and prospered. It is him they rely on to speak for them. But as His Holiness celebrates his 84th birthday, the community's thoughts are turning to his succession. The Tibetan government in exile has tried to be reassuring.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama made it very clear that, the struggle of the Tibetan people is the Tibetan people's struggle. It's not Dalai Lama's struggle, In 2011, he gave away the political responsibilities to elected representative. So even if His Holiness is not there, politically we can carry on our struggle.
Over the years, the political demands of the government in exile have evolved. Today, it no longer demands complete independence, asking instead for limited political autonomy within China. To keep its struggle alive, it relies on education. Even today, exiles continue to cross the Himalayas to reach Dharamsala. Many are unaccompanied minors who undertake a risky clandestine journey with the help of smugglers. LOBSANG was only 5 when he undertook this journey. To protect his parents who still live in Tibet, he requested anonymity before agreeing to speak to us.
At night, I often dream of my house in Tibet. I want to go back to my homeland and see my parents.
Since 2012, 13-year-old LOBSANG has lived in this Tibetan boarding school. He's one of the last to have arrived from Tibet.
My father and my mother sent me here so that I could study our Tibetan culture. This is a pendant that celebrates the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday. It protects me and helps me feel safe.
After 2 months of holidays, it's time for LOBSANG and his classmates to go back to school.
I'm happy to be able to start this new year in this warm atmosphere. Don't forget that our principal motivation in this school is to concentrate on learning Tibetan culture and language.
1,100 students who have assembled this morning will discover the curriculum for the year ahead. The school has organized lessons for them which they could never have received in China.
For some of you, your parents are far away, and I know you cannot go on holiday.
In this school, there are over 100 teachers who look after the children who are on their own in India. From the very beginning, the lessons are geared towards instilling traditional culture in these young minds.
Tibetans living abroad do not have the opportunity to learn about our culture and our religion. But as His Holiness the Dalai Lama points out, we must study the Tibetan language and through it, Buddhism. It is a way to help our country and to protect our identity and help our cause in the long run.
I'm Tibetan. It's important to learn my mother tongue. It allows me to speak with my parents.
Since its creation in 1960, the curriculum has been really successful. But today, fewer and fewer students come directly from Tibet. Most are from the Buddhist areas of India and Nepal.
Until 2008, about 700 to 800 children would come from Tibet every year. But now, because of China's tougher policies, that number's decreased. In Tibet, the widespread demonstrations of 2008 led to reinforced controls, and the military presence is stronger on the border.
Dharamsala, which was once called Little Tibet, is rapidly losing its unique identity. Fewer people are coming in and more are leaving. Some 100 people leave every year to go abroad. In this workshop, where the traditional Buddhist craft of Thangka is taught, apprentices have chosen to stay. They are the last keepers of a disappearing art.
Another brushstroke here, and on the hair, there.
At 29, Shempen is more talented than the other students in the school. It has now been 7 years since he's been perfecting the art of Thangka. He dreams of becoming a master someday.
In the beginning, I took an interest in the art of Thangka because of my passion for drawing. But it's true that now I am conscious of the importance of preserving our cultural heritage. If possible, one day, I'd like to return to Tibet to teach young Tibetans this art.
Since 2011, more than 100 students have signed up for this school, but today, only 24 remain.
It is true that the number of people signing up has decreased. This is our biggest worry nowadays, not only for traditional painters, but also for religious scholars in monasteries, for all those who practice Tibetan culture. It is a real challenge for us to perpetuate our country's culture. It is difficult because there aren't enough people to represent and appreciate our identity. As a Thangka painter, it is my responsibility to keep this know-how alive.
In India, opportunities for Tibetans are limited. They don't have formal refugee status and are considered foreigners. It is difficult for them to get a loan, open a shop, or travel freely. Young Tibetans like Shempen see their future elsewhere. This afternoon, the young painter is meeting his friends in a local cafe. They subsist on small jobs.
Us Tibetan exiles don't have many opportunities here. We are at a disadvantage on the job market compared to the locals.
If I go abroad, I'm certain I'll have a better life. I want to leave this place.
It is a dream for Tibetans to go abroad, the dream of having a career and expanding our abilities.
Now more than ever, the Tibetan diaspora in Dharamsala is worried about its future. Beijing is threatening to appoint the successor to the 14th Dalai Lama and thereby strengthen its grip on Tibet, while the exiles cling to the hope of solving the Tibetan conflict within the next few years. They also hope that His Holiness will have a chance to see his beloved Tibet one last time.
Lena Razafimbelo and Irene Marceau revisiting Dharamsala for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Don't forget, as ever, you can catch it and the previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.